We'll put a wrap on what we've just left behind in part 3 of the year 2025 in review with guests Brigitte Gabriel, Stacy Washington, Ted Nugent, Charlie Kirk, and many others on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. We will tell you at the end of the show more about where you can see or listen to the show, including the audio archive, where you'll hear guests such as Judge Jeanine Pirro, Ben Carson, Wayne Allen Root, Diamond and Silk, and Monica Crowley. Well, we're into the new year, everyone. So happy new year, everyone. And, we had some good and there was some bad last year. But the great news is Donald Trump is in the White House. So onward we march. So let's close the book on the year 2025 in review, part 3, with short clips from Brigitte Gabriel, Ted Nugent, Stacy Washington, the Patriot Barbie, Dr. Robert Malone, Christina Bobb, Chris Salcedo, Tina Descovich, Carl Jackson, Gloria Giorno, and Lucas Miles. And as in part 1, we'll begin the festivities in memory of the late Charlie Kirk with a clip from his appearance in June of 2024. So are you ready? Well, let's get into it.
That's a great question. It happened in a 2-part move. Number 1, they wanted it. And number 2, we let them. It's that simple. They wanted to take it over. And number 2, we let them. I know that sounds overly simplified, but let me break it down. They made a declaration. There is a man by the name of Rudy Duchka, and he said, we're going to have the long march through the institutions. He said, this will take 100 years, but we will slowly crawl through the institutions, and we will crawl through the federal agencies, and we will long march our way through the bureaucracies, and eventually we're going to be in control. And then we let them. We did not take the warnings of Joseph McCarthy seriously. We did not take the warnings of communist infiltration seriously. And we kind of said, oh, America's great. We could never fall. We were prideful. We were arrogant. And dare I say that pride comes before the fall, is that we were very arrogant that America was impenetrable, that we're the greatest nation ever, that we can never collapse. And we are the greatest nation ever, but that doesn't mean that we are immune to collapse. And these Marxist revolutionary forces have been incredibly successful because we've let them be successful. And that should be very empowering to your audience, which is that if we allow them to continue to march forward, we won't have a country, but it is a choice. We have made the decision to allow them to take over the republic. We've made the decision to allow them to take over every core power center in this country. And so it needs to be a decision for us to say, you are no longer able to take over every power center in this country.
It will never be over. It is contained right now. And thank God we have President Trump in office at such a time as this. The world has been asleep. Israel has been warning the world about Iran since 2003. In 2003, Israel sent the first delegation to notify world leaders about the threat of Iran building a nuclear power, a nuclear project, and weaponizing it for war, not for building energy. Nobody wanted to listen to Israel. Obama and Biden appeased Iran. Obama sent them pallets of cash in the middle of the night, landing on a tarmac, basically using our tax dollars to symbolically contribute to their nuclear program. Biden did the same thing, released all the sanctions that President Trump had put on them in President Trump's first administration. And now, finally, we had to get to 1 minute from midnight for us to take action. And thank God we had President Trump at the helm to take the action. Now, this definitely set Iran years back. We're waiting to see the full report. Hopefully, we believe it got completely destroyed because there is no way you can survive the bombs that were dropped. I think 14 bombs were dropped, 30,000 bombs into Granite Mountain to destroy their nuclear project. So I don't think anything is left down there. But even if there is anything left, It's going to take them years to be able to come back and build anything. And hopefully, by that time, the Iranian people would have risen, overthrew the regime, and brought about regime change. But at this point, the situation with Iran is contained. Israel is not going to be wiped off the map. And now we move to the next stage in hoping and working with the Iranian dissidents and the Iranian people to rise up against the regime.
I couldn't fathom it, because when I was born in 1948 in Detroit, Detroit was known as the work ethic epicenter. Family, Christianity, being the best that you can be, pride of ownership, pride of accomplishment, earning your own way. The concept of welfare was just foreign. It was indecent. You got a gift. You manage that gift and you take good care of it and you produce so that you're in the asset column for your family. So I watched, even though I was just a dumb kid, a victim of the anti-education system of America. When Eisenhower left office in 1953, I was 6 years old, I'm going to be 6. I didn't know it at the time, but I've gone back and researched it. He said the biggest threat to America was the CIA and the military-industrial congressional complex, which means that the biggest threat to America was Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam and the goons, the corrupt, treasonous, oath-violating goons of the U.S. government, has manifested itself in such cultural deprivation with this freak, goon, devil, Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, who stand for all things evil. They're still the party of the Klan. They would boycott the civil rights movement today, and they're doing it in their own way. My point is that I survived this industry. I didn't survive. I thrived. I'm having the time of my life. There's a vapor trail of flames coming out of my ass. I'm so energized because of my hunting lifestyle, my clean and sober choices, and the positive people I'm surrounded by. But we got this way because of the orchestrated dumbing down of America. We're graduating kids as we pay more money than any other society. We're graduating kids that can't talk. They can't read, they can't write, they can't subtract, they can't spell. And the teachers union wants more money for them, not for the kids. So that is in a capsulization of all the cruelty and indecency is perpetrated by not just the Democrat Party, but Republicans that couldn't find their scrotum and stand up for what they knew was right. And that's why we're in debt, not just financially in debt, we're spiritually in debt. But here's the great point. I could harp on all that ugliness, but Gary, these are grand times. God sent me for times such as this. I'm wearing the armor of God, and so is Donald Trump, and so are the real Republicans, and I got to salute you, man. You're standing up. You're speaking truth, logic, and common sense. Not your truth. Self-evident truth, self-evident common sense, logic, 1 and 1 equals 2. You can't buy a Cadillac if you don't work. It's like, duh. So there's a movement. And I could be I could be fooled because I'm surrounded by the best people in the world. My band, my crew, Linda. Your team has worked with my personal assistant, Linda. God bless the woman. Yeah. Everybody in my life is so positive. My hunting buddies, I guide hundreds of hunters every year in our Michigan and Texas camps. Gary, the best people in the world share campfires with me, and it makes me even more cocksure that what I represent is not Ted Nugent's hunch. It's not guesswork. I presume nothing. I embrace self-evident truth, God's miraculous creation, and my moral obligation to be a steward thereof, and that is widespread, and that's who elected Donald Trump. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
There you go. A lot of people, woke, cancel culture, you CRT, all these things, they said, yeah, it's the latest fad, it'll go away, but it didn't, right?
Yeah, so unfortunately, evil doesn't just go away. Evil has to be vanquished. And this is a a fight between good and evil. We have for years, decades really, framed all of our opposition to leftist policy as being a left-right paradigm. And in reality, we're talking about good and evil. And nowhere is that more clearly demonstrated than what you look at the southern border, the uptick in crime, the kidnappings, rapes, murders, armed assaults, carjackings, and overall lowering of peace and the living standard of Americans. That has all been brought to us by a wide open southern border by those who seek to radically and fundamentally change the country from one that is a sovereign state with its own ideals and directions to that of a vassal state that is kind of run by some other entity, be it the World Economic Forum or the World Health Organization or NATO, basically anybody but Americans, hot-blooded, patriotic Americans. And so as we saw that advancement of that idea under the guise of President Biden being the president, right? He didn't know where he was half the time. So it was clearly staffers and people under him who had a progressive agenda who were forcing these changes. And we didn't see pushback from Congress. We didn't see an adequate pushback from any part of government. Everyone seemed paralyzed. And if you go into the Bible in the Old Testament, as you find our form of government first introduced in Deuteronomy to the Israelites, God gave them representative government. The founders gave that representative government that they received to us. And you see that there's just this horrible, absolutely horrible litany of things that happen to nations that choose to disobey. So if you are obedient, the blessings section applies. If you're disobedient, the curses section applies. And in that section, it describes the foreigner will enter your land. The foreigner will be above you. The foreigner will lend to you and you will borrow from the foreigner. You will not lend to him. And the foreigner will be above you in all things. He will be placed in front of you. So we were paying for things for 4 years, literally being taxed out of the wazoo, paying for everything you can see. And foreigners were the recipients of our money. We were robbed. Foreigners were given $5,000, $9,000, sometimes $15,000 a month. They received tax refunds where they'd never paid in. They lived in homes. They kicked us out of our community centers. They kicked us out of our schools. They were taking from us, and that's because we were living in disobedience. And the Lord has given us a reprieve through the re-election of Donald Trump. We get to get this thing, we get another opportunity at this, another crack. But it's not a time for us to sit back. It's a time for us to pay attention. And as fast as President Trump is moving, we need to be moving just that fast in our local level, in our elections, whether it's dog catcher. I know that sounds odd. You're thinking, what could come of that? Some states and municipalities have a tax on your dog. I don't know if people know this. I mentioned dog catcher and people are thinking, are you paying a tax because you own a dog? In Virginia, and it's Springfield, Virginia. I know they have it. Some other places in Virginia. You actually, if you own a dog, you pay a tax on your dog every year. I mean, this is the ridiculousness that we're putting up with. What does that tax go to? Dogs don't drive on roads. What is a dog doing that could possibly necessitate a tax at the local level? So when I say you need to be managing these elected officials, they serve at your pleasure through the consent of the governed. That's a term that you find in our Constitution because the founders gave us government based on natural law, not common law. Common law is what the British realm has. They base their law on the right of kings. It's bloodlines that matter to them. To us, it is simply citizenship in this great country. And then you get to be the highest office in the land, citizen. You get to execute your will through your elected representatives. And when they don't do what you've said, you get to unelect them and send new people in to do what you've asked them to do. So that natural law and that ability of Americans to be able to govern themselves, it's the most coveted thing in the world. Equal justice under the law, not having to be from a special family like the Bidens or the Clintons in order to receive justice. These are things that people are literally fighting and dying to get into our country to experience. And we need to take the time to maintain the system of government because it's the one everybody else wants and we were born into it. And so we should feel a responsibility to keep it intact.
Yep. What it does is show you their true character and their true end game. The end game is not one little bowl of women's rights, as they would call it. Their goal is, how can I manipulate the situation to bring you back to just believing what I believe? right? We know that they are not inclusive. We know that they are not tolerant. We know that they are not tolerant. And we know that they believe ultimately that whatever they believe is right, and you cannot change their mind. And this is proven over and over and over as you watch interviews and street interviews with leftists that are rioting or protesting. They actually don't have answers ever for what they're doing or why. And once they're caught in that kind of moment, they say something like, this interview is stupid, or I don't have to answer to you, or I need to go, or something, right? They walk away. It was never about women's rights, because if it was, the minute a woman stood up and said, I had an abortion and it hurt me so badly and now I can't conceive children, they would have gone, okay, whoa. This hurts women? We're supposed to be pro-women. The minute a man started playing in a woman's sport, they would have said, whoa. We're here to protect women and you are not one. It really is a mental illness. And I mean that as kindly as possible, but it's a bold fact. It was never about women. If it were, those two situations would have stopped them in their tracks. It's about, I want you to agree to believe what I believe, or you are a fascist. Period.
Yeah, there you go. You know, I don't understand why America allowed itself to react to this when the swine flu and what Obama did or didn't do. You know, the country wasn't shut down. We weren't forced to take a stab and a jab. I mean, and before we get into your book, since this is the way you framed this, were you shocked when you got canceled over your positions on the China COVID virus and the vaccine? Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, so that was really what triggered the build out of this book through Substack. We kind of serialized it on Substack chapter by chapter and then pulled it together, is trying to make sense out of what I was experiencing. I've been at the tip of the spear in multiple outbreaks before, I think 5 or 6, going back to HIV in the early days. And my wife and I had put out another book that no one hardly knows about in February of 2020, called How to Prepare and Protect Yourself from the Novel Coronavirus. It didn't even have a name back then. And that got, I'd say, canceled. It got canceled by Amazon. And they wouldn't give us an answer as to why it got taken down until finally they said we had violated community standards, but they couldn't tell us what community standards we'd violated. We didn't cuss, we didn't swear, there wasn't any porn. I mean, it was hard to figure what it was. And now we know that it was about the coordination to suppress any voices that were different from the official narrative coming out of the government. Turns out that deplatforming happened just a couple of weeks after Amazon sat in the White House with a number of others, including the World Health Organization, and had discussions in the White House about the need to control information about this particular virus and this outbreak. I mean, we've been subjected to amazing levels of coordinated propaganda, censorship, and, there's no other way to say it, psychological warfare that basically caused your comment about why did America go along with this? Well, they were subjected to military-grade psychological warfare technology in order to control what they were thinking and feeling and doing. And that is the topic of the book.
Yeah, it is far from over. We finally are at the place now where we can fight back. We've been fighting to get back into a position where President Trump has some authority to actually make these changes. But we're seeing a lot of resistance from Republicans in the House and the Senate. I mean, let's face it, President Trump's biggest opposition are not Democrats. Democrats have lost the common sense. They're a freaking sideshow. His biggest opposition is Republicans. And so we're finally in a place where we can clean out the corruption, but that includes corruption on the Republican side. So we've got work to do. It's not over.
Do you think the Republican establishment, which isn't MAGA, and a lot of them are probably globalists, when they like the way it was. Are they just trying to play out the string, shorten the game and just saying, okay, we just have to get through 4 years and then we can take it back like it used to be?
I think there's some that want to do that. Yeah. And I think in 2020, it was more so that way. But, for every 2-year election cycle that President Trump has been in the picture, I mean, the MAGA crowd is getting rid of more and more rhinos. We see Liz Cheney's out, Adam, what's his face? Kinzinger.
Prinzinger,
yeah,
right.
Crying. Yeah. Kinzinger, that's right. Adam Kinzinger.
Right.
He's out. So we're seeing that get cleared out, but it's not cleared out enough. But we've come a long way, but there's more to go.
Well, as I said, it was the moniker, and it was
right.
I've been espousing for 15 years, coming to fruition with the election of President Donald J. Trump. And that part of the book takes place just before my interview, just before the election in October in Las Vegas. So President Trump, and this has to be pointed out, President Trump and the America First Coalition is what attracted so many Latinos to. By the way, majority of male Latinos voted for President Trump. First time a Republican has ever achieved that. And a record number of Latinos writ large voting for President Trump, more than any other Republican in the past. The reason why is because President Trump gave a vision, something that was a contrast to the Democrats. The Republican Party has not. The Republican Party has shown almost no contrast to the Democrat Socialist Party. They believe in, if you listen to John Cornyn, or you listen to Mitch McConnell or Liz Cheney or Adam Crying Kinzinger, the number one attribute they believe in is bipartisanship, which is Washington speak for do it all the Democrats' way. And we want something that is a bold contrast. We want, if you're going to vote Republican, you better be voting for something different, not Democrat-like. And that's what the America First Coalition gave Latinos. I got to tell you, Gary, the Democrats lost their minds. They said, little Johnny can be little Susie. They said, little Susie can be little Johnny. They said that men can have babies. They said the best woman for the job is a man, putting men in women's sports. And Latinos said, what? And then,
I was going to ask you about that. How does the Latino community look at that particular aspect?
Well, then they said, I don't know how much Spanish you took in high school, but as you know, there are, in the Romance languages, there are masculine and feminine assigned to particular words, right? And the Democrats said, hey, you know what? That's not going to work for us because of the LGBTQ, ABCDFG cultural Marxist agenda that we're implementing. So you're going to start calling yourselves Latinx. And we said, what? You want me to bastardize the Spanish language for you? So it was that opened the door to allow the Latino community to go, okay, these people are nuts. Let me see what else is out there. Now, if it had been Paul Ryan carrying the message, if it had been Mitch McConnell or John Cornyn carrying the message, I know the Latinos said, okay, I guess I'll just stick with the Democrats or not vote, right? But it was Trump who had the message. So it was the back guano crazy actions of the Democrats that opened the door, and there was something waiting for them because of President Trump, and only because of President Trump. And the Republicans just proved without Trump and the America First Coalition in the 2025 elections, we saw what happened as Marxist Mondani wins in New York, the center of American capitalism.
Yeah, we'll get into him.
A Marxist wins. Yeah. What they just showed by a couple of these shrubs that got elected, they had the support of the Communist Party of China. They win. The Republicans, absent Trump, couldn't even beat a man who said he wanted to see his Republican opponents dead and their children dead. Now, you tell me what that says about how robust and inspiring the Republican Party is. It's not. The Republican Party is nothing without the America First Coalition. And the sooner everybody wakes up and recognizes that, the better.
It came from places I didn't know existed, to be honest. When we started Moms for Liberty, I'd never heard of the Southern Poverty Law Center. I didn't know who that was. And yet they have become to be, a huge thorn in Moms for Liberty's side.
Are you telling me they called you hate speech?
Oh,
a hate group? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we were added to their map 2 years ago, and
Oh, boy.
it rocked our world in a lot of ways. In that same summer, Anonymous, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They are the
No.
they're the international cyber. They wear the black masks, and they're in all black, and they send out those videos with the encoded voices.
Cowards.
Oh, it's terrible. They came after us that same summer and cyber attacked us. And the experts we had to bring in said someone invested tens of millions of dollars to cyber attack Moms for Liberty and try to access our membership list. Luckily, we were smart from day one, and we knew that we might come under attack. So we had a lot of things in place to protect our data, to protect our members. But the teachers unions came after us, the NEA. I never thought the DOJ, the FBI, the federal government, the Biden administration, I never thought the National School Board Association would be an enemy of mine. I never thought, the list just goes on and on and on. And it is quite remarkable the enemies that we are racking up.
How did you handle that? Because some people and some organizations say, we don't need this, and they back off. But you haven't backed off. You've actually stepped up the efforts, even drawing a parental rights line in the sand, which I love, because see, what they want to try and make us do is cut bait and run. So how were you able as a group to stand together? And you speak, and a lot of people speak nationally, and so you're out in public. What's that like? Because, with Antifa and Soros and all the radical groups and everything, they always try and intimidate. And I would think they would really try and intimidate women, thinking, well, they're women. But you stood strong.
Yeah, so Antifa has come at us hard. They were at our Philadelphia National Summit. The Philly PD had to shut down an entire block around the Marriott Hotel one night. They had to have their riot police out shoulder to shoulder protecting us. It was quite remarkable to experience that. The night before our summit launched, our kickoff reception was at the Museum of the American Revolution, and Antifa spray painted on Washington Cross in the Delaware. They smashed in some of their windows, trying to intimidate them from hosting us, and they stood strong. They had members of the LGBTQ community that worked there that were threatening to not show up to work. So did the Marriott where we were staying, because so much pressure was put on them to cancel us. But they held to their contract in their defense. And so the intimidation threats have been amazing. Some of the worst, honestly, for months, if not for a full year. We were getting cards and postcards from Satan, and they were signed by Satan. They were talking about legions surrounding us. Very evil. We've had witches send us letters and casting spells and hexes on us. Like, some of that is more intimidating than the actual physical threats of violence. Our children have been threatened. It's been pretty intense. I just told you about the cyber attacks, the federal government coming after us, FBI agents calling our moms, asking if they're speaking at school board meetings. Like, it really has been a wild 4.5 years. And so why do we keep going? We keep going because we're moms. Like, none of that matters. When you put your child in front of you and look at them, when you see the assignments that have been coming home, when you talk to our members whose children that they've been tried to be transitioned in school from teachers or counselors, hell can come at us. We don't care. It's our kids. So it's as simple as that. We're moms, and we're going to put our kids first.
Actually, I think there's more than two.
I know, but we'd be on here all day and all night if you did them all.
All right, I'll give you two, but I'll also give you an acronym. And I've used it plenty of times on air, and I call it Higher E. That's healthcare, that's immigration, which Trump is dealing with, that's regulation, that's energy, and that is education. We can take healthcare, for example. Not enough people gripe about this, but I think they should. Republicans have a great opportunity to destroy Obamacare, and they need to do it. They're scared to do it, but you and I both know. I mean, I've been self-employed for as long as I can remember, half my life at least. And I can remember not having a job, obviously, where I had insurance. So I was buying my own personal insurance, great insurance, a PPO at $180 a month before Obamacare kicked in. I could go to any doctor that I wanted. I mean, the Doctor's visits, I think, were like 10 or 15 bucks, something of that nature. Obama comes on, hey, I'm going to lower everyone's healthcare costs. I'm one of these independent contractors, if you will. And I didn't believe it. I knew it was a lie all along. But anyway, so I get a notice from my healthcare provider. Your bill will now be going up 400% to $720 per month. So at that time, I literally went without any healthcare insurance for 10 years until my wife was able to get it at a job, and just tried to stay as healthy as possible. But healthcare is how they control the masses. Healthcare has absolutely skyrocketed, and now the left uses it as a cudgel. And you can create affordable healthcare very easy. It's not hard at all. All you have to do is put doctors and patients in charge, open up the ability for patients, consumers to be able to buy across state lines, make insurance companies compete with each other instead of Obamacare hooking up insurance companies by mandating you make insurance companies rich. It's the biggest scam ever. It did nothing to improve healthcare. All it did was made it worse, because now doctors are more focused on paperwork than they are their patients. Not to mention, they're grooming a lot of these woke doctors on these college campuses now to be Marxists. And so they believe in euthanasia. They believe in death of the, of the elderly, eugenics, and so on, et cetera. These people are absolutely insane. So that has to go. I love what Trump is doing with immigration. We need more of that. A lot of conservatives, hey, what we're seeing from ICE isn't pretty. I'm like, what did you expect to see? I mean, what we don't see, what we don't see are the little girls. Nobody complains about the little girls that were being sent by their crappy parents from different countries with rape kits so the Mexican cartels could take them or bring them into the United States of America. It's amazing to me that no one is concerned about that element of illegal immigration. But no, I want people to be citizens. Mamdani gave his speech last night. I saw part of it where he talked about New York City is basically the city of immigrants. No, it's not, you idiot. It's a city of citizens. It's a city of citizens. And if they're not legal immigrants, I'm sorry, they need to go bye-bye. I don't want anybody here that isn't going to assimilate. And if you think America is so bad, you can leave too. The truth is you won't leave, because deep down, people know that this is the best country in the world.
So let's get into Stevie. The name of the book is Outcast: How the Radical Left Tried to Destroy a Young Conservative, written by Gloria Giorno with her son. And what kind of stunned me, as I told you before we started the interview, I went to Ohio University, and we played Belmont in basketball 3 times in the last 5 years, haven't fared too well. What I know about Belmont, it's in Nashville, it's supposed to be a Christian school. And I was actually stunned to find out about your book from the standpoint of how did Stevie A even get elected student body president in the first place? Didn't they know what he thought? And then they went after him in a variety of vicious ways. Please give us the details. And people who haven't heard this, you are about to get your socks knocked off, because you're not going to believe what they went after him over.
It's extremely interesting. I will tell you how he got elected first. Yes, he has a LinkedIn page. My son has worked for Senator Marsha Blackburn since he was in high school. He was 17. You know what he is. He's a conservative Republican, right? So he was endorsed. He ran for student body president for 2020. He was endorsed by college Democrats and college Republicans on Belmont's campus. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they found him to be likable, and they did feel that he would do a good job leading the school. Being student body president is not it's not a partisan position. It is a position to help students get ahead if they need something at their university. Unfortunately, when COVID came along and schools got shut down, I think that's what turned these students against my son. I know for a fact it is. And so on the 4th of July, Stevie did put up his most non-political post ever. It's a picture I took of him in front of the White House. And he thanked our forefathers for our freedoms. And that's how it all started. So he put that on his, you can still look it up. It's a public Instagram post on his personal account. And, 300 comments, go kill yourself, you're a terrible person. The next day, a change.org petition. That change.org petition labeled my son a racist because he was celebrating a covertly racist holiday. So the 4th of July is not a day that we all celebrate as being Americans. The 4th of July was transposed during COVID as a covertly racist holiday. And the school went along with it. The school agreed with it. Shocking.
What'd they do? Okay.
Nothing. They did nothing. I called the school. They did nothing.
Right. So the threats weren't carried out. It didn't get much deeper than just get out.
Actually, my son had to be escorted. The threats were not just get out. The threats were,
That's why
we're going to kill you. If we see you, it's on site. I learned some new English. On site means they're going to beat you up if they see you. And it was by text. It was his fraternity. It was everything. So our son ultimately had to be escorted by a police officer when he was on Belmont's campus, and he was unable to park his vehicle anywhere near there. So basically, administration, my son followed the handbook to the letter. He distributed everything, every threat, every comment that was sent to him, he turned into administration. And I called the president of the school. That at that time it was Bob Fisher, who's no longer a president. But he had an attorney call me to ask me if I was going to be suing Belmont. I'm not sure what I'd be suing Belmont over. They had nothing to do with the students. The only problem I had is, what are you going to do to keep my son safe? That is my utmost priority. They had no idea. So finally, we did get a police officer from Belmont's campus to escort him from class to class. So they were going back in person on September 27th. They did urge Stevie to not go back. Hell have no fury. My son is not staying home. My son is going to be there in class. Yeah, you can mask him up, but he's still going to be there in class. And so this officer escorted him from class to class. And this went on for the duration.
Look, it's been an honor of my life to be able to serve under Charlie Kirk for about the last going on a year and a half. I've known Charlie for about 5 years. There's people that have known him a lot longer that are around this organization. But Charlie was incredible. He was a tremendous leader. His integrity was above anybody I've ever seen. What he preached, what he told the public, who he was in public is exactly who he was in private, and then some. Tremendous husband, father, friend, and brother in Christ. He was a martyr for Jesus. He gave his life. And I believe he's going to be remembered for a long time. And I know that he's in this great cloud of witnesses cheering us on right now from heaven.
Right. Thank you. What are you telling people? Because a lot of people they don't seem to understand why would, we understand what Satan means for evil, God will use for good. And we understand God doesn't make mistakes. And as people are seeing the work that Charlie was doing, the mission, it's increasing. I don't know how many folds right now, and will continue to increase in his death. So what are you telling people that are really struggling with this, and America's just heartbroken?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's natural to ask questions during this time. In philosophy and theology, we have a thing called the problem of evil. If God is good, then why do bad things happen? It's actually a topic that one of the last big conversations I had with Charlie was on this very thing. God is not the author of evil. The book of Lamentations 3:33 says that God does not willingly bring grief or affliction to the sons of men. God is not the one who is causing our pain or our heartache. We have free will. It's a gift that the Lord has given us. He's given us this dignity of choice. And unfortunately, that dignity of choice allows evil men to be able to choose to do evil things. God is bigger than their choice, but he doesn't violate or suspend the laws of physics or the laws of free will in every single instance, simply to save or redeem life. Now, he's involved. He's active. Our prayers matter. But I think what we do see is that God, when the enemy does bring about evil, when evil men choose to do vile things, God shows up, and he showed up big this week in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination. There is a revival taking place across the country. Churches have literally doubled in size. We are seeing tremendous growth as an organization at Turning Point. The resolve that we saw from Erica Kirk, his widow, on national television now, who's named the CEO of Turning Point USA. She's at the helm. She is determined to lead this organization with strength and vigor in order to make sure that Charlie Kirk's name is not only never forgotten, but that his vision, his mission are completely fulfilled. And I'm just honored to be part of that. This isn't God, but God's in the aftermath of this, and glory to his name is going to be made.
Well, that's a wrap for the year 2025 in review, everyone. Part 1, 2, and Part 3. If you missed any of them, please go back and look. We had some great guests on, and what they said during the year is just as valid today. And what I always try to do on this show is tell you the problems that need to be solved in America, but also provide solutions. So I thank everyone for coming on and giving us hope, because we can win this battle of subversion. We must win this battle of subversion. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find the video version at YouTube, Rumble, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, vachristian.org, the America First Warehouse.com, yournews.com, obbmnetwork.tv, WeSeeYouMedia.com, and the Queens Village Republican Club.com. Wherever you go, please subscribe, leave a message, and tell us what you think about the show. Now, I started in 2020 in audio. First 3 years, this show was audio only, and there were some great guests. So if you go to radioinfluence.com/category/United Patriots Uprising/ more than 150 guests that was on, and you'll find people such as Ben Carson, Mike Lindell, Brandon Tatum, Monica Crowley, Diamond and Silk, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Dick Morris, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Judge Janine Pirro. So you can go to the audio archive, and again, it's incredible. What people said then is almost as valid today. And the solutions they provided then, we still need to incorporate many of those today. Well, that's it for now, everyone. So once again, I'll say Happy New Year, and we'll be back to live shows coming up. And we've got a lineup. We're gonna just keep it rolling. So coming up all ready for you are the likes of John DeLemme, K. Carl Smith, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Trevor Loudon, and Rose Tennant. Those are some of the guests you'll see in January and February. There'll be many, many more, Lord willing, as we keep trying to do this for God, family, and country. So until the next time, this is your host, Gary Binford, saying, God bless you, God bless your families, God bless America, and once again, Happy New Year, everybody.